Hi, everybody. Let's take a minute. I want to step back to David Jimenez. David, do you want to recheck the roll to see if we've missed anybody from prior? Just the ones that were absent earlier?
Sure.
Christina Ebbett's
And then
having trouble getting in, FYI.
Christina Ebbett, yeah.
Yeah.
She's in the waiting room, is what I understand. So starting with DLC presidents, I have 701 Lisa Davis. And we got 710, 721 Robert Gilbert. 726 Charity Regalado. 741 Monica Rodriguez. 746 Joycelyn Odom. I think I saw her. I marked her down already. Joycelyn Odom, are you there? Can you guys unmute her? Oh, she should be able to unmute herself, huh?
David, I do see you.
Yes. Yes, I'm here.
Okay. And Christina Ebbett, is she still? Christina, are you there? Christina Ebbett, 751.
We do not currently have her on the Zoom.
Okay. Is she in the waiting area? Do you see her? Or you don't see her at all?
There is nobody in the waiting room.
Yeah, she's registered multiple times, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Isn't that wait after this?
761 Angelique Moreno.
Present.
Okay. Uh, 765 Leonard Seitz. And then next 782 David Johnson. 792 Jack Dean. 'Oh, and then I skipped 784 Cullen Crowell. He's here. So, 792 Jack Dean, no. 799 Delon Johnson. 850 Carrie Riley.
Point of information for Ms. Riley. This is Kevin Healy, 752. I'm texting with her and she is unfortunately out of town. And if I could ask on her behalf for an excused absence.
I'm not sure. If she could just submit that herself, Kevin, I think that'd be more appropriate.
But just so you know that she's absent.
Point of clarification.
Noted.
No, let's finish the roll before and then raise your hand. So.
Well, then why didn't Kevin Healy raise his hand? I mean, it seems like very favoritism going on here.
Oh,
Out of order.
okay.
That's right. It's out of order. He shouldn't have done it. And
You're out of order.
All right.
We can't allow other board members not to do it.
Please, Mary, please. Let's let David finish the roll.
Robert Vega, chair. And I'll come back to Christina Everett, but last I have is Richard Brown. Yeah, okay. And then so 751 Christina Ebbett, is she on yet?
Not yet, David. When she's on, I will give you a heads up.
Okay. So the current roll I have at 43.
Wasn't called.
Thank you, David.
I wasn't called either.
Who, Joycelyn Odom?
Could-
Mary Dela Cruz.
Oh, well, you voted in executive session, so you're on the roll now.
Okay, thank you, David.
Mhm.
And
Um,
then 762, did you call me again?
Donette Sparkman, yeah, I have you down. We
Okay,
already counted you, yeah.
Thank-
So, again, I have 43, and we have Christina Ebbett attempting to get on.
All right, thank you, David. Mary Delacruz, you have your hand up?
I do thank you for recognizing me. I just want to state for the record that we can't allow some of these board of directors to not follow the rules and then shut people down when they're following the same steps as those that are not raising their hand. We either honor everybody equally and not play favoritism with this board of directors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. All right, with that said, let's move on through the agenda. So the next piece of the agenda is to set meeting dates. That's agenda item 1. The recommended action, I would ask Stephen Olari to speak to.
Mr. Chair, are you going to announce what happened in closed session? That we usually, when we go into open session, we announce if there were action taken. Thank you.
I would just say that there was a motion adopted to extend a high rate offer for CFO. Leave it at that.
The boardroom is
Thank
not
you.
off mute.
Thanks, Stephen, for keeping me honest. So in executive committee, the action was taken to extend an offer to rehire and fill the CFO vacancy. All right. So I'm simply going to move the motion for the discussion and adoption of the board meetings for the remainder of the year.
Second.
No second?
Second,
Oh, thank you,
Larry.
Steve. I thought it was going to die. All right, I have some hands. Mary Delacruz?
I'm sorry, my hand, I didn't pull it down. I apologize.
You're welcome. The chair recognizes Wanda Yanez.
What about approving the minutes first? We haven't approved the minutes. Item number 4.
It's an oversight. Tell her we'll come back after this.
We'll come back after this, we'll come back to that after this, and I'll let David speak to the minutes at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. The chair recognizes Naomi Mozambique Johnson.
He's working with, no, if she's not able to.
She still can't connect.
Okay, she's still not connected properly. Naomi, we'll come back to you. If you put your hand down and put you back up, I'll get you back in. Chair recognizes David Jimenez.
Yes, I am reviewing the motion item right now, and I submit a motion to amend. I would like to insert that we have a board meeting in April and that the date be the 23rd so.
Second, do you have to second that?
I second. I'll accept that as a friendly amendment. As a seconder.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Are there any objections?
Are there any objections?
Date one more time, please.
That we insert the first board meeting to be held April 23rd.
Thank you.
Point of information on the friendly amendment. 752.
All right, everybody, we're just trying to solve a couple of technical problems. Do you have a number for her?
I do.
We're trying to solve Naomi's connection issue. So with this in mind, I'm going to hand the gavel to David for a moment to speak to this. So David is now the chair. With that in mind, all right. So it's already the middle to the end of March. Our policy file change calls for 4 board meetings a year. We have to take into consideration staff's ability to meet these and the obstacles that we were working to overcome to meet today. I would like to see that we don't repeat those again. So what I was going to ask the board to do was to have a discussion about having 3 meetings this year, June, September, and December, and decide whether or not they wanted to have those virtual, or if you wanted staff to plan to meet in person. And I was going to ask the board to consider making March, June, September, and December the permanent months for the board meetings going forward, so that staff can plan, pick dates, make hotel and airplane reservations, et cetera, and get those dates out to the board in advance so everybody can plan their calendar. Now, to me, that makes sense. And we can certainly come back and have another one-day board meeting if that's in April, if that's what the board chooses. I don't want to put extreme, and we're asking you to do a lot. I don't want to keep overloading. I do think that we may have to come back in April or the beginning of May. I don't want to interfere with May if I can help it, because we're going to have an SBAC in May. So there are a lot of moving pieces and moving parts. I'm trying to take staff's ability to meet the obligations into consideration and not overload them. So with that said, I am going to return as chair. I will not make any other comments on this as you debate. And right now we're at a friendly amendment to add April 23rd. And with that, I will recognize Misty Del Rosario.
Thank you, Bill. I just have a point of, I guess it's clarification or information. So we're discussing one date. Normally our board meets for the entire weekend. So like, would it be the 23rd and 24th? Because during the board of directors meetings, we also usually have a day that our human rights committees meet. And I think that's just as important. So my question is, are we considering the 2-day meetings again, or are we just considering 1-day meetings? That is important for scheduling. Thank you.
The chair recognizes David Jimenez.
Speak in favor of the friendly amendment to insert the date of April 23rd. Understanding the new changes in the policy file, or the recent changes in the policy file, the schedule for board of directors meetings will be set by the board. And so hearing the concerns of Sister Misty Del Rosario, I think, well, I would offer a suggestion of how we could address the future dates in that when we meet in April, if we meet in April, that we set the date for the next meeting, lock that in. But for now, if we just solidify the months. And as far as it being a 2-day or 1-day, that I guess that is a good question, because past practice has been to have them be over 2 days. So we may need to do that again for the 23rd and the 24th. I'm not sure if that's the Saturday, Sunday. But I would think that setting this regular board meeting is preferable to having more and more emergency board meetings set between now and June. This one is really packed with a lot of items that I think can be addressed in a regular board meeting. So I'm really much in favor of using emergency board meetings to handle a few items that are emergency items that need to be dealt with like ASAP. So the fact that we have this emergency meeting right now, we don't have any future ones scheduled. I'd like to set the next regular board meeting for April 23rd and the 24th. I think that's plenty of time to address staff concerns. And I also,
Time has been reached. The 2 minutes has been reached.
all right.
Thank you, David. Just a note for anybody who wants to look at their calendar, April 24th is Orthodox Easter, if that's of concern to anybody. So just to keep that in mind. The chair recognizes Latasha Brown.
Thank you. So according to the new policy file changes, we're supposed to have 2 meetings in person, 2 meetings by Zoom. Are we now suggesting that we change the policy file again? And we need to address, would April be in person or would it be by Zoom? And when we set the future dates, we also need to identify that. So that's 2 questions. Are you suggesting we amend the policy file again? And are you going to adhere to the policy files that were just passed with 2 in person and 2 by Zoom?
I see no motion on the floor to address any changes to the policy file, Latasha. So, so
would April be in person?
May I finish? The June, September, and December were to be planned to be regular board meetings based on the fact that President Brown had set no board meetings for the year. What I propose is to allow staff to figure out the dates. If we're going to meet in person, there's hotel and airplane reservations to be made. That may impact the dates of availability for the board meetings. So let's have staff do the research and set the dates as soon as possible so that they have time to do the work. Now,
unfortunately, the policy file requires that the board of directors sets the dates, not the staff. We set the dates.
I concur.
That's the problem. You just said,
15
you
seconds.
just had us about that. So we need to adhere to what we just implemented. We set the dates, not the staff.
That's fine. Then, Latasha, with that said, if you want to set the dates, make a motion to
Fine.
have certain dates. The chair recognizes Colin Crowell.
Yeah, so my question is SBAC going to be in person or not? Because if it's going to be in person like it should be, I think the board of directors should be doing this at the same exact time and at the exact same place. Because when I was a DBER, we would have the main room do like an hour or so, and then everybody would break off to individual rooms. So if they continue that, then we, as the board of directors, would have the main room. It would save us a lot more on the money, and I don't see spending our members' dues inefficiently. If we're going to have to rent a room, why not just rent one room at the same time?
Thank you, Colin. The chair recognizes Steve O'Leary.
Stephen O'Leary, DLC 723. I was gonna call the question, but I think Colin raised the issue that I think I just want to clarify that the bargaining chairs are part of the board of directors. So we would not be able to do it at the same time as the SBAC. I believe the motion we brought forward is the board setting the dates. We are setting the dates, the months for the staff to work to coordinate having the meetings on those months. I think in the circumstance we're in right now, that it's important that we adopt this motion and move forward. I urge a yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. The chair recognizes John Turok. John? Are you there, John? We hear some static. There you go. There you go.
April board meeting. Thank you. Yep. This.
All right, John, we're going to have to come back to you. We have a point of order.
We just take up the original motion.
John, we'll come back to you. We can't hear you. You're breaking up. We have a point of order from Ruth Ibarra. Is that correct?
Yes.
Ruth?
Hi, I'm just a little confused, sorry. Are we in discussion regarding the friendly amendment, or are we in discussion about the main motion?
Friendly amendment.
Okay, because I hear everything about shouldn't it be the discussion that April 23rd should be a date that we have an BOD and not about setting the dates for everything else? I'm just getting a little confused there.
Understand, we should be on the amendment.
So I have my hand up to speak on that amendment.
Yeah, we're on the list.
Okay, you're on the list and we'll keep going. So John Turek, did you get your audio issue taken care of? The chair recognizes John.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So John Turek, DLC 743. I oppose the friendly amendment to add an April board meeting and urge that we take up the original motion about the June and September meetings.
Thank you, John. The chair recognizes Teresa Taylor.
Yes, thank you. I speak against the friendly amendment. Having been part of planning these meetings, it's really, really difficult to get a room in about 4 weeks. Get rooms for everybody and get the room rented, especially as we're moving into spring and stuff. And I think that it's behooves us to make sure that we can have these meetings in person. So I speak against the friendly amendment for April and continue with the June through whatever dates we had. I forgot, but thank you.
The chair recognizes Ruth Ibarra.
Thank you. Ruthie Barr, DLC 787. I am going to speak for an April meeting. I think that a lot of these items on the agenda are not emergency items and that they need to be discussed fully. Having not had any of those items until I believe the email was sent like around 8 o'clock at night, or at least that's when it was received by my email system. We haven't had enough time to review those items on the agenda, including the budget. Which I believe is the only emergency item on there. So the April, I move the friendly amendment and I urge a yes vote on it.
Thank you, Ruth. The chair recognizes Ben Arriaga.
Yeah, I have a point of information. I wanted to know if when, or at least when is it appropriate to submit any motion regarding the agenda? I know we're under a current discussion. The current item that's being discussed is an amendment friendly or not to the current recommendation. I just want to make sure if I submit a motion to say table 1 or 2 items not pertaining to this discussion, when an appropriate time for that would be.
All right, we'll let Scott to speak to that.
Yeah, I was just typing a response to your text message when you got recognized.
Yeah.
So let me start off by answering generically. The point of order that he sent in had to do with adopting the agenda and his desire to table or delete something from the agenda. So ordinarily with special meetings, there is no need to approve the agenda because the agenda is that set for the special meeting. And under your policy file, you can't add new items. So we don't usually have a motion to adopt the agenda at special meetings. That said, if there is something on the agenda that someone does not want to deal with, there are two ways of handling it. One would be at the conclusion of this item to make a motion to consider the agenda for the purpose of deleting something or resequencing it. That would be proper. The other thing would be to just wait till the item comes up, raise your hand, and once you recognize, you could then move to postpone it to either to a future meeting date or postpone indefinitely, which would essentially mean it would need to be resubmitted for some future date. Did that answer your question?
Yes,
Okay,
definitely.
good.
I appreciate that.
Speaker's time has been reached.
Thank you, Ben. The chair recognizes De Leon Johnson.
Oh, this is DeLon Johnson. I speak in favor of the amendment specifically because the time for these emergency meetings and the matters we're discussing, it's hard for me to find, childcare even be present because you got to take care of these kids. So I would prefer to have an April meeting so that we can eliminate the need for any potential emergency meetings that might come up before June. Thank you.
Thank you, De Leon. The chair recognizes Mary Delacruz.
Hi, thank you for recognizing me. I too say that this be tabled to the April meeting, and I don't see any items that are an emergency, but if we can, I say move forward and a yes vote for April. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Steve Alarie.
I call the question on all matters before the House.
Second.
Question's been called.
Second.
Just a second. I need to explain the rules.
Point
Right.
of clarification.
Hang on, Nicole. Scott may answer your question. He's going to speak for a moment.
Okay. So Mr. Larry called for a vote, a closed debate on all matters before the House. For those of you that are not familiar with the term, what that means is ordinarily when you call the question, it's just the immediately pending question. In this case, that would be the proposed amendment to add April 23rd. When you call questions on all matters before the House, that means all currently pending items. That means the amendment to add April 23rd and the main motion as printed. Okay. Ordinary.
Is that a pig's foot?
No.
Oh.
I didn't hear that question, but so you're going to be taking, so if this motion is adopted, okay, you will proceed, if the motion to close debate is adopted, then you will vote first on the amendment to add April 23rd, and then you will vote on the motion as submitted, either with April 23rd included or not, depending upon the results of that first motion. Okay. Now, I need to, you've got a little procedural question that I'm not sure there's really an answer to because it's your special rule. So I'm going to tell you what my suggestion is going to be to the chair, recognizing that if any of you disagree, you can discuss it. Your rules on motion to close debate are a little bit different than Robert's Rules of Order. Your usual rule is it takes a 2/3 vote to close debate. That's 2/3 of those present and voting, not absolute 2/3. 2/3 vote to close debate. Your rules allow debate to be closed when there's on amendments or procedural motions to be done by a majority vote, and you only need a 2/3 vote for the main motion. That said, Mr. Alari's motion is to close matters on all matters before the House. In order to avoid any confusion, I'm going to suggest to the President that because he's wanting to close debate on the main motion as well as the amendment, that takes a 2/3 vote to adopt.
Thank you.
Now I'm confused.
Take the
Naomi,
vote, 2/3.
Naomi, did that answer your question?
Point of information.
I-
That was Nicole's
Yes.
question.
Yeah, that
Oh,
was
Nicole.
me.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
yes, thank
I'm
you
sorry,
very much.
Nicole.
That's
You're
okay,
welcome.
yes. Thank you very much.
The
You're,
motion is to close debate on all.
you're
matters
welcome.
before the-
All right, so the current motion is to close debate on all matters before the House. It is a
2/3.
two-thirds vote. So I think, Scott, do you have a list of hands before we?
I have the list of who was wanting to speak before this.
Okay, so everybody, we have a list, so go ahead and put your hands down. Jerome, Sharonda, there we go. All right. Seeing no further hands, everyone who's in favor of closing debate, please raise their hand.
May I request a roll call vote, please?
She can request, but
I agree.
For the sake of time, unless you want to overrule the chair, I'm going to say that a show of hands and a count by Scott
I'd
and
like to
the,
overrule the chair and request a roll call vote, please. Can someone second
challenge
it?
the chair.
I'll second that.
Oh, pardon me, this is Scott. Before you go there, let me just clarify, because I want to make sure everybody understands. Right now, you are only voting on whether or not to close debate, not whether or not to adopt the motion. Are you saying you want a roll call vote on closing debate?
I would like a roll call vote on all our votes. Thank you.
Yes.
Wants to move it, takes a majority vote to order a roll call count.
Okay, so we're going to back up, everybody. Lower your hands. So David, lower your hand, please. Thank you. All right. Naomi, Jocelyn, thank you. So it takes a majority vote. So all those in favor of a roll call, please raise your hands. You got it, Scott?
Yeah, 9.
Please lower your hands. All those opposed to a roll call vote, please raise your hands.
Did you notice I cleaned up a little bit? No, like up there, I mean, now the sink's full. Yeah, you did good. I want to mop my next break. Ooh, sorry.
We can hear you in the background. Please, Mike.
9 yes, 28 no.
Okay, the motion for a roll call vote fails by 9 yes to 28 no. Please lower your hands.
Motion is now to close debate.
Thank you. Seeing no hands, Daryl, lower your hand, please. Thank you. Seeing no hands, the motion is now to close debate. So all those in favor of closing debate, please raise your hand. Okay, Scott's got it. Please lower your hands. Thank you. Seeing no hands, all opposed to closing debate, please raise your hand.
Twenty-seven to 13, debate is closed. By 1 vote.
Point of clarification. What was the number that we needed for the 2/3 vote?
I was just going to get there, Mary,
Thank
if you
you.
give me a moment.
Thank you.
Okay, so go ahead, everybody, take a minute, lower your hands.
Vote is 27 to 13, that is 2/3 majority. That is 2/3.
So the vote was 27 to 13 to close debate. So we made the 2/3 by 1 vote.
Now it's on the motion as, pardon me, now we're on the amendment.
We're on the amendment, yes. All right, so now the vote's on the amendment. So all in favor of the amendment as presented by David, please raise your hands. Okay, Scott's got it. Please lower your hands. And DeLeon, there you go. All right, everybody, thank you. So, seeing no hands, all those opposed, please raise your hand.
By 8 to 13.
Okay. Please lower your hands. By a vote of 28 to 13, April 23rd has been added to the agenda. We're now on to the motion for, as presented, that you have in front of you.
Can I just make a point of information? I just wanted to add that I think the April 23rd meeting would be a Zoom meeting to accommodate for those concerns regarding hotels and all that stuff. It should be a Zoom meeting for that date.
Thank you, David.
Point of information, Sharonda.
Point of information, Sharonda, go ahead.
While I understand our need, thank you, David, for making that a Zoom, but considering, and thank you, Latasha, for bringing it up about our in-person meetings. Considering the state of California is still operating under an emergency order, is it kind of premature to start talking about in-person meetings?
No.
So, okay, Sharonda, thanks. I think we need to have a further discussion around that whole issue, and I think that's valid. Please let me remind the board, especially for the people who are newer, point of information is about how to vote, and a point of order is on procedure. With that said, we will work through this in a reasonable fashion, I believe. We're on to the motion to approve the April, June, September, and December as the board meetings for 2022. All those in favor, please raise your hands.
Wait, point of order. What are we voting on now?
We're voting on agenda item 1, the board meeting schedule, which includes April 23rd, which was already added and passed.
Thank you.
Point of clarification, just making sure what we already voted on and passed, you said that's what we're voting on?
Okay, so April 23rd was in essence added to agenda item 1. So you're now voting on agenda item 1, which includes April 23rd.
A point of further clarification, if I could. So this just means that it's all or nothing.
Kevin, you're out of order.
Point of order.
Yes, David.
So are we not allowed to make further amendments to the motion?
Correct.
Correct. Thank you.
Pardon me just a second.
Hang on. Scott, keep your hands up. Scott's trying to double check.
I started raising their hands.
Okay. And lower your hands, please. I still see some hands. Thank you. Seeing no hands, all opposed, please raise your hands.
I'm confused. What?
Hi, Christine. Do you have a point of information on how to vote?
Are you speaking with me?
Yes.
No, I was trying to figure out what we were doing because they asked for a couple of questions and then said yes, and then you said Scott was confirming something, and then you said lower the hand. So I was just trying to figure out what we're doing.
Okay. So we are voting on agenda item 1 to set the calendar for the board meetings for 2022. We've already had the yes vote. Now we're on the opposed vote.
Excuse me, Bill, it's Olivia 706. I had technical difficulty to enter my vote.
Okay.
It was a yes.
Ruth Ibarra, DLC 787. I had the same thing, so my vote's a yes as well.
2 more yes votes.
So Olivia Montano and Ruth Ibarra are both yes votes to approve the agenda items on the board meetings.
Okay, and I have the hands that are raised. With those two addition, it's 26-9.
So motion passes 26-9.
Point of clarification, what was the 2/3 number that needed for this to pass?
This isn't a 2/3 vote. This is a simple majority, Mary.
But to answer, correct, this is a simple majority.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I see
No,
a
I
few
just-
hands.
Point of information, I just want to make sure that my vote was also recorded for the yes.
I believe so, but this is not a roll call vote. So I can
Yeah,
clarify.
it's not a roll call vote, Annika. Scott says he believes he has you as a yes. I see, I have a couple of hands, so let's go there. Sharonda Ward. Nope,
That was an
Sharonda
accident,
dropped off.
sorry.
That's okay. Seeing the chair recognizes Stephen O'Leary.
Stephen O'Leary, DLC 723. I move to adoption or approval of the minutes.
Thank you, Stephen. Do we have a second?
Kevin Healy, 752, second.
Point of information. So I just
Go ahead,
wanted to
Alan.
I wanted to highlight in the minutes that there is actually there's some things that need to be corrected. So maybe I did this incorrectly. But we need to modify. The meeting was called and adjourned by David Jimenez on for the minutes that we are approving on the 5th. The chair was not in the mix yet.
I have another
There we
point
go.
of, another correction on the minutes. And I also have, I guess, a point of order because I didn't realize that the vote was closed on the item 1. What was the final tally on the item 1?
26-9.
26-9, David.
Okay. And so my amendment or the minute correction that I find is on page 19 of the packet. It under the informational item, what I had shared at that moment was that there would not be a full budget presentation, but a financial presentation of the number of. So I would just like to correct that it should be a financial presentation. It's planned for next meeting on Saturday, March 19th. And we could, just leave it at that. Just say a financial presentation is planned for next meeting on Saturday, March 19th. Because I indicated at that time that a budget would not be ready by March 19th.
Bill, as the maker of the motion, I accept those changes that Annika made and David. as part of my motion.
Second,
Okay.
first.
So with that, let me just ask one time, are there any other changes to the minutes?
It's kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Actually,
So
excuse
with those, do you have a point of order or point of information, Kevin?
yes, responding. I'm noticing on page 15, it said that 8:50 Carrie Riley was absent, but she did vote. She was absent at the
Okay.
initial, but she did vote. Page 15.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. All right. So with no other changes to the minutes are adopted. Thank you, Steve. I see Wanda's hand is up. Wanda, did you have something of
I had a
relevance?
question. I just wanted to clarify, that the board meeting is going to be in November or December? Because in writing it said December, but when somebody said verbally it was going to be for November.
No, it's what's written on. So it's April 23rd, June, September, and December.
Okay, thank you.
Point of
right.
information. Point of information.
Yeah, Teresa, go ahead.
We didn't vote on it, did we? I think we just made the motion and answered questions, so we still haven't voted on the item.
She's talking about the minutes. There's no need to vote on the minutes.
There's no
Okay.
need to vote on the minutes.
Thank
If
you.
if you're referring to the minutes, yeah.
Yes, there was. Thank you.
All right. So now let's have a quick discussion
We got
on
David's hands up.
people's preference. And David's got his hand up, so let's let David speak.
Yes, I wanted to motion to move some agenda items up. Specifically, the agenda item 14, to move that up after the presentation of the finances and the after that.
I second it. This is Ruthie Barra, DLC 787.
I think I don't know if I need to speak to it or.
So David, where do you want to move it to?
I think so right after the budget presentation, you have on the agenda there a vote or an item to be voted on regarding a spending or interim budget / spending authorization plan. You can move it right after that.
He wants to move
Bless you.
14 to become 2B.
The talent committee?
Yeah.
No, that's not the one I'm referring to. I'm referring to, it's page 51 of the packet.
Yeah, I don't have the packet printed out that way, David. What's the title of it?
Let me get there.
Well, he's getting at point of information. I do note that there are 2 agenda items, Roman 14, and that may be the confusion.
Yeah, it's, oh, there's 2,
Yeah,
is that what okay.
Yeah, I'm probably responsible for that, so.
So it's agenda item, it's marked as X and then 4 I's, so it should be, for 14, it would be
Okay.
one, yeah, that one.
So
So it's the
is
duties of the
it-
Board of Directors Policy File Adoption 3.0.048.
Okay, got it. And you want to move that to 2B?
10
Yes.
seconds.
Let's just get this done. Adopted as requested, if there are
Speaker
no
said.
objections. Adopted as requested, if there are no objections. All right, hearing no objections, the agenda change per David's request has been adopted. Ruth, you have your hand up? Chair recognizes Ruth Ibarra. Nope, hand down. All right, so there's already been a concern raised about public health, public safety. The policy file says 2 Zoom meetings, 2 in person. Does the board have a preference to what those look like? So we can guide staff. So the chair recognizes Steve Valari.
Yes, I guess Parliament inquiry to the chair, maybe this is the parliamentarian. I know we have the policy file that says 2 and 2, but if we wanted to waive that, would it take a motion of the board to waive the 2-2 rule due to potential concerns about COVID and meeting at this time?
Scott says yes.
Or they
Okay,
can
so-
delegate.
Or you can delegate the authority to the chair.
Okay, well, I move that we delegate the authority to the chair.
Point of clarification.
I'm still recognized, right, Mr. Chair?
Yes, so, all right, everybody, please keep yourselves muted so that everybody can hear. And Mary, if you have a point of order, or please.
Point of clarification.
Please raise your hand or reach out to Scott through a text to his phone number, please, Mary. Steve still has the floor.
Yeah, so I move that we waive the provision of the policy file upon and give discretion to the chair and the officers to determine whether the meeting will be in person or by Zoom. That's my motion.
Second.
All right, we have a second.
Who was the second?
724.
De Leon Seacrest.
Point of clarification. I'm sorry. So are you saying when we have a point of order or clarification, we can't speak up? We have to raise our hand and get in line? I find that inappropriate only because if someone closes it, then we're never going to be heard.
Okay, Mary, if you have a point of order.
Okay, point of
which is
order.
about-
Procedures.
Is about
Yes.
procedure.
Yes.
Please text Scott. We gave out his number earlier.
Yes, but remember, I didn't have access to the Zoom, so I didn't receive it. If I can get it, that would be awesome.
Okay, we'll have Scott give his number again.
Okay, my number is 916. There was a cough. Let me repeat it.
Just a reminder, this is being recorded and live streamed.
Okay, speaking to the live streamers, if you've got parliamentary questions, I'll quote you my hourly rates later if you're not on the board. For those of you on the board, it is 916-803-2495.
Thank you.
And then if you have a point of information, that is a question on how to vote. We are working to get through all the hands that are raised and not leave anybody out. If you need to know how to vote and a vote is called, please speak up. And Scott's gonna chime in.
Okay. I always hate to correct the presiding officer. I'd be passing Bill a note if this was not Zoom. So I just want to clarify points of information, or what are now called requests for information under Robert's Rules of Order, so you understand how they work. Okay. First of all, a request for information is not to impart information. It is to ask a question. Okay. Secondly, the chair is partially correct. When you're in a vote, there is no request for information, and then unless your question relates to the conduct of the vote, something about, something that you need clarified in order to vote properly. Prior to getting to the vote, okay, ordinarily under Robert's Rules of Order, you can rise to request information. You are entitled to preference and recognition only if your question is something that the chair believes is urgent and needs to be answered immediately. Otherwise, you're put back in the queue. For all of my clients under Zoom and COVID, they have all just eliminated the preference given to points of order for urgency because of just measures of practicality. So what I suggest is if you just have a question that can be added to the queue, just raise your hand. If you truly think your question is urgent enough to be given preference and recognition, then text me as if it was a point of order. I will relay that information to the chair, and if the chair believes it's urgent, he'll recognize you next. If not, you'll remain in the queue.
Thank you, Scott. Steve, as maker of the motion, do you want to speak to your motion?
Yes, I do. Stephen O'Leary, DLC 723. I urge a yes vote on this motion. We are still dealing with COVID. We have some folks who are on our board that there's concerned about health and safety. I think it's prudent to delegate the authority to the chair and the officers to make a determination whether the meeting should be in person or Zoom based on the circumstances and the health and safety of our members and the board of directors. I would urge a yes vote. Thank you very much.
De Leon, as a second, do you want to speak?
I would just concur with what Steve said and recommend a yes vote.
Thank you, De Leon. The chair recognizes David Jimenez.
Sorry, I don't think I meant to lower my hand, but I do have a point of order. So we are just voting on Stephen O'Leary's, is it an amendment or a motion that the meetings be decided by the executive and the chair, right? Whether they be in person or Zoom. Is that what?
Correct. Correct.
So
That's the motion on the floor, David.
So is that an amendment to agenda
No.
item I?
That's a new motion.
No, it's a new motion.
It's a new motion. Okay. Thank you. I'll lower my hand.
Yep. The chair.
Point of order. During a special meeting, are we allowed to bring new motions to the table? This is an emergency meeting. This isn't a regular meeting.
I'll have Scott make that ruling.
First of all, let me explain just again for future reference, the parliamentarian doesn't make rulings. The parliamentarian advises, and the chair typically follows that advice, but need not. So, this is a special meeting. The special meeting announces the agenda, but this is related to, this kind of addresses Mr. Jimenez's motion as well. This is a motion that arises, is closely related to the first one that was dealt with. And there was discussion during the adoption of one about whether these should be Zoom or not. And that was, and the discussion and the chair said that this is something that needed to be decided, essentially given the discretion to staff. That motion was adopted, and then the chair says, I'd like to have some discussion to give guidance to the staff. And Mr. Larry made that motion. I think it's close enough related to the discussion that was made and that this motion was telegraphed. And I think it's in order, but I recognize reasonable minds may differ. If the chair rules that way, then that decision can be appealed.
So I find Stephen O'Leary's motion to be reasonable and should be accepted and voted upon. No different from amending the agenda item 1 to add April 23rd. So with that, the chair recognizes Misty Del Rosario.
So I'm going to concur with Stephen O'Leary. I'm going to, I would like to remind the board that there are some people that have ADA disabilities that there are serious concerns for them to meet in person at this time. And out of respect for their ADA covered disabilities, that we at the very least, give the option for those who are unable to attend the board in person during in-person meetings, the ability to Zoom for those. And also as a suggestion that we continue Zooming our general sessions for the membership to watch, because not everyone can get to wherever we're going, Sacramento or San Jose or whatever. So, and not everybody is going to be healthy enough and not concerned to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Misty. The chair recognizes Naomi Muzembe Johnson.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you. We're glad you got here.
Thank you, Jesus. I do concur with what Stephen has said about us, the meeting and accommodating everybody. I also want to state that some of the people who want to attend the meetings, some of them would have, for example, like today, some of us are at work and the areas that we work and we are not allowed to, we have too much access. I can't even text Scott where I am because I'm in a prison. So kindly, I would like for us to take into consideration when board members are asking for accommodations, because we want to serve our members. At this point, we are getting back into normalcy, and we all need to work as a team to make so that we can have the members feel like we are heading in the right direction and our union is getting stronger. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Mary Dela Cruz.
Thank you for recognizing me. I know that these are changing times, but the requests that we're doing, shouldn't we be following the CDC guidelines? I am in the medical field. And so if they've lifted that where there's no issues of in-person, I'm wondering why is a few people on this board making the decision of whether we should meet or not. I'm all in favor of having both those that can attend because of their choosing not to attend, but I think to just say because of COVID, well, they've lifted those restrictions. We're no longer in a red zone. And hold on, am I being recognized or still recognized? So
Yes,
based
Mary.
on the CDC guidelines, I think there's no issues of why we can't meet in person. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mary. The chair recognizes Jerome Washington.
I call the question.
Second.
Laurie.
Thank you, Steve. The question's been called. Please lower your hands. All those in favor of ending debate, please raise your hands. Thank you, everybody. Please lower your hands. Thank you. Seeing no hands, all opposed, please raise your hands.
Everyone to 7. Motion, debate is closed.
Please lower your hands. By a vote of 31 to 7, debate is closed. So, Mary, you probably want to put your hand down, I think. Thank you. All right, seeing no hands. All those in favor of the motion to allow the officers to choose how the meetings go for the rest of the year, please raise your hands.
And the chair. Thank you.
And the chair.
May I ask for a roll call vote, please?
Ask, but it takes a majority to do it. We've got 30 yes votes on the motion so far. Actually, 28.
May I ask for a roll call vote?
Okay. Okay, so to answer that question, you can ask. We already have more than 2/3 votes on the on the question on the floor. So there really is no point in doing a roll call vote.
It is because we can
Okay.
document it, who voted yes and who voted no for those to see. Can I please request a roll call vote, please?
Point of order, I believe that requesting a roll call during the vote is out of order.
Correct.
Point
Thank you.
of order. I requested this at the very beginning that all votes be roll called. So I did it before. Thank you.
That was, yes,
That was voted down.
and that was voted down, Mary.
So are you saying
So-
that we can't request it prior to voting at all now because it was voted down at the beginning? I
You
need
can
point
come
of
back,
clarification.
you can come back and request again prior to a vote.
Okay.
All right. Scott, do you have the vote?
I have the yes vote.
Scott has the yes vote, so please lower your hands. Nicole, thank you. All right, seeing no raised hands. All opposed, please raise your hands.
Motion is adopted.
30 to 6.
30 to 6.
All right, everybody, go ahead and lower your hands. By a vote of 30 to 6, the motion is adopted. I would like to assure everybody that myself and the other officers will work with due respect and within the availability to make the board meetings happen appropriately for the rest of the year. And as soon as we have dates, they will be communicated to the board. Thank you very much. We have a budget finance presentation. So with that said, you had some financials sent out to you last night. I've got a couple of hands. Are they relevant? So Cohen, is it relevant to what we're doing?
Sorry, I couldn't get unmuted. So just a clarification, because when Scott first said that we weren't adding, you can't, in an emergency session, you can't add any motions. And then you guys said, well, it's close enough. We're going to be doing that every single time that, we let Scott, go from our policy just because. Is that going to be now a current thing? If you like it,
Out of
we can
order.
just change the policy file?
Okay, so hang on a second. So Cohen, I
It's
think
not out of
Cohen
order.
has,
It's a valid question.
Cohen, I'm trying to answer your question. And so I think I want everybody to be clear. We are not adding new items to the agenda.
If you want to go back to the minutes, you said it was a
Cohen?
new motion and it was
Cohen?
not attached to the other one.
Cohen, may I?
Sure.
It is directly related to the motion of how we are going to do our meetings for the rest of the year. It is not a new agenda item out of the blue, such as, are we going to adopt 2 kittens from the local ASPCA? So with that said, I think it's appropriate for the board to have a discussion and have input on how they want the meetings run for the remainder of the year. So with that, that's why.
I agree, it should have been put on the agenda, but not added to last minute.
Okay, all right. Well, I appreciate you for this.
You keep on saying you're going to be respectful for all
Cohen?
the rules, but then you change them.
Okay, Cohen, I'm sorry you see it that way. We're not gonna have a debate about this. Thanks for your input. The board got to hear you.
Have that put on
Nicole?
the.
Nicole?
Yes, yes.
The chair recognizes
Please don't mute
Nicole.
Thank you. I just want to know if we could have those dates sooner than later so we can plan our calendar. Thank you.
Yes, Nicole, we will work on that and be respectful so everybody can plan their calendar. The chair recognizes Mary Dela Cruz.
I believe Roy was in front of me. I'd like to respect him being.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, all right. Miche, please.
Thank you, Ms. Mary.
because I feel like I have been overlooked on a lot of this. This hand raising function is not operating well. I have counted people voting twice on multiple occasions. I wasn't able to take my hand down on one of the votes. And I think this needs to be recognized, because I think the reason the board members are saying this, asking for this roll call vote, is because they are noticing this malfunction also.
Okay, duly noted. I am pretty certain that Scott is being very careful to be observant as to who is voting which way. And Scott is keeping the vote today. So I have confidence that the vote is being recorded as accurately as possible. However, moving forward, we will pay extra attention. Thank you. The chair recognizes Mary Dela Cruz.
Thank you. Mishi, I'm just piggyback because I agree. For those reasons, I've been asking for a roll call vote. There's misfunction with the way these hands are going up, and people, as it's been exposed here, are not able to raise their hands. And
okay, so
hold on, please don't cut me off. I'm a board member. Let me finish. I respect you, Bill Hall, and I respect the parliamentarian Scott, but it's not what he thinks, it's the board. We have to be, let us see the numbers. We all need to be, as a fiduciary responsible person for our members that we supposedly represent, we need to see the numbers. For that reason, why are we not wanting to have a roll call vote and keep it all above board and transparent? That's my statement. And please put this on the record.
Thank you, Mary. Chair recognizes LaTosha Brown.
I too have watched people vote both ways, and they get counted both ways. So with that, I was going to make a point of order. I want to bring that to the attention of the chair. I understand that the chair is recognizing what the parliamentarian is saying. I brought it to his attention as well, and I would like the chair to make a decision on the fact that people are voting both ways.
That's not true.
This is the parliamentarian.
Okay, hang on. Latasha, Scott's going to answer your question.
Okay. Well, this is the parliamentarian, and I want to let you know how I am counting the votes, so you will be aware of that during the rest of this discussion if you choose to continue this discussion. So the way I am counting the votes is the chair has everyone lower their hands. Then when he asks them to raise their hands, I count the number of hands that are raised. I have not been paying any attention to who's raising their hands because it's not a roll call vote, but I count the number of hands that are up. After I've counted the yes votes, and I always wait 10 seconds at least after the last hand is raised to make sure no one is a late arrival. I let the chair know how many yeses we have. He then has everyone lower their hands, and then I do the same thing with the noes.
Point of clarification.
I have not been paying attention to who the yeses and nos are because that's not important to me. The only thing that's important are the actual numbers. Now that the issue has been raised, I will certainly be more attentive to that. However, I also should just point out to you that this general session is being live streamed. So even though we are not taking roll call votes, if there's anyone that wants to know who voted how on any issue, all you have to do is look at the live stream, which of course is being recorded and will be up there for a while. If you are voting twice, recognize that it may affect the vote. So far, we've only had one vote where it could have made a difference. But more importantly, remember that this is being live streamed, so somebody could question you about it later. So just be careful. If you intend to, if you voted yes, and then you've changed your mind and decided to vote no, then maybe just, text me as the parliamentarian or after the vote's done, let us know what you've done just so we can clarify it. But other than that, we're just going with the raw counts. One last point. Anytime you think that something is going wrong with the recording of the votes, then what you need to do is rise to a point of order, and you need to do it promptly before we move on to other business. But if there's any questions about the recording of the votes, just text a point of order to me. We will address it immediately.
Point of order.
So with that said, thank you. But isn't it for the chair to decide on and not the parliamentarian?
With that, Latasha, we're going to move on. We have a point of order. I lost who the point of order was. Was it Ruth?
No, it's Mary, but I rescind my point of order and allow it to Latasha to finish.
Time has expired.
Okay, point of order. My
Right,
point
go
of
ahead.
order deals with the voting going on. I appreciate, thank you, Scott, for the explanation. We've identified at the beginning that there's IT issues with people being able to raise their hand, lower their hand. That being said, it's not necessarily about we can go back and see who voted what, but the outcome of what this vote is going to take place now. Whether it's going to pass or not pass, that's the big thing. So again, I'm going to say for those reasons, I am asking for a roll call vote. And, because of the IT, the difficulties with the system that has already been identified. Thank you.
Point of order. Whose responsibility is it to record the actual votes? Is it the parliamentarian or is it the chair?
The parliamentarian counts the votes. I record the votes as he reports
He
them
casts the vote?
along with Irene. Irene verifies as well. She's in the room. So,
is that the policy file?
Just a point of order from Larry, but finish this first.
no, that's the way we do business. That's past practice.
Point of information.
Hang on, I'm not done with Cohen. Give me a moment here. So Cohen, that's past practice, and it's reasonable to have Scott count the votes as he's a neutral third party.
Point of information.
You have a point of order from Steve O'Leary.
I was before Steve O'Leary, so why is he being recognized first?
Because he has a point of order. So Steve?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Stephen O'Leary, point of order. This discussion is getting to the point where it's dilatory and I believe out of order. You have addressed the issue. That's my request for a ruling. Thank you.
Point of order.
Mary? No, at this point. This is just becoming argumentative.
It's not
And my
argumentative.
I challenge the chair. I challenge the
chair as well, Mary Dela Cruz. I want to go on record. I'm challenging because you just said that this is the practice. Well, because of what's going on, we can't follow the practice. We want to follow the policy. Do we want to make another flex to the policy so we can change what we're doing and not follow the policy? If that's what we want to do, I'm all in, but we can't just flex the policy because we don't want to follow it.
Can we let the chair make its ruling first? Thank you.
Oh,
All right. So, we seem to be going down the road to a very contentious meeting today, which means that we're not productive. The past practice has been that the parliamentarian counts the vote. Others in the room count the vote as well. I wouldn't be surprised if David and Annika are counting the vote on their own. Any board member is able to count the vote. We're leaving the hands up long enough. If you want a roll call vote, you need to ask for it just prior to us voting on an issue. And if you ask at that time, that will be addressed. So you can continue to ask for a roll call vote if you want. And at that point, we're going to close this discussion and we're going to move on. Now, that's my ruling. Now, if you want to challenge my ruling,
I want to
you can
challenge
do
the
that.
chair's ruling, please.
I second it. And I want to add that when David Jimenez had his meeting before the chair was put into place, he counted the votes. So past practices don't go back except for maybe one meeting.
I
And-
agree.
And David counted the votes because it was a roll call vote requested prior to the vote.
Again, go on record. I've requested multiple times roll call votes, been
I'm tired
denied.
of these delay tactics.
Point of order, I respectfully submit this is out of order at this point. A question has been called to challenge the ruling. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, parliamentarian, that this now has to go to a vote so we can move on.
All right, correct. Do you have a list of who's got their hands up? Scott's gonna take
Can I
a
ask
list
for a
of who.
roll call vote, please?
Okay, Mary, we'll do that. All right, we have the list, so hands down, please.
Once we deal with this, somebody. So we should probably cover.
All right. So we have a challenge to the ruling of the chair. So since I've never done this before, let me make sure I'm doing this correctly. If you want to uphold the challenge of the chair by roll call vote, yes or no? Yes supports the challenge.
No, yes supports the chair.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Yes supports the chair, no supports the challenge. David, would you please take a roll
Point of
call vote?
order, point of order, Mr. Chair. Wouldn't do
Yes,
vote
you are.
whether, don't they have a vote on whether to do a roll call vote?
No, that's.
No, we'll accept the roll call vote on this, Stephen, thank you. So we're gonna have.
Point of
Point of
information.
order. Point of order, Ruth Ibarra.
All
Can
right.
you repeat,
Hey,
can you repeat what the challenge is, please?
Yes,
Other
so
than
the
they're
rule,
challenging your decision, what's the decision that they're challenging? Thank you.
they're challenging the decision of the chair
Which was,
Not the votes.
to permit the parliamentarian to count the vote.
Thank you.
So with
thank
that,
you.
okay, so the challenge of the ruling of the chair is that my ruling is it's appropriate for Scott to count the vote. A yes vote supports that ruling. A no vote challenges the chair and upholds the Latasha and others who feel that that ruling is inappropriate. So a
Point of
yes vote supports
clarification.
a yes vote supports the chair and a no vote supports the challenge.
Point of
Yes,
clarification.
Mary.
So
Yes, Mary.
just so that I have an understanding, even though it's against policy, the order is that the chair overrides the policy and we're going to uphold.
This is
the-
debate.
Hold on. No, my clarification is understanding that we're going to override the
Not a
policy
question.
and so I'm, okay, what I'm saying
All
is,
right. So,
okay, here's
so
my
Mary-
question. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mary,
Yes,
hang
sir.
on a second. Hang on a second.
Yes.
I realize a lot of people are new, and I realize that a lot of this is difficult. And with that said, Scott's going to try to make a clarification.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay. This is strictly Robert's Rules of Order right now, which is your parliamentary authority. Ordinarily, it is the responsibility of the secretary, or in your case, the secretary treasurer, to count the votes. Actually, let me rephrase that. Ordinarily, it is the chair's responsibility to conduct the vote and determine the result. If it's a counted vote, the chair may do so him or herself, or may have the secretary do it. That is not it's nowhere addressed by your policy file. This is Robert's Rules of Order. It's also a provision in Robert's Rules of Order that if you have a custom and practice for doing something, that has the force of rule, and you are to follow that, continue following that custom and practice, except if a custom and practice is contrary to a rule, then someone can raise a point of order to insist that you follow the rule instead. So here's the situation as you are right now. Local 1000 has had a custom and practice going back at least 20 years that I know of, that the parliamentarian assists the chair in conducting votes unless it's a roll call vote. I shouldn't say the parliamentarian. There's been a custom and practice that the chair has the assistance of someone in counting the votes. There has been a point of order raised that custom and practice not occur for this meeting today, and that instead you follow the rule that it would be done by the secretary treasurer instead. The chair has ruled that it's reasonable to continue with the custom and practice, so that's now been appealed. So the vote is, a yes vote means supporting the chair and following the custom and practice, which allows the chair, I don't want to say have the parliamentarian count the vote, I should say it gives the chair the discretion to have someone at his discretion count the vote. A no vote it rejects the chair's ruling and would instead require the secretary treasurer to count the votes.
Point of information by the parliamentarian.
Yes, Mary.
So I appreciate his clarifying, but the historic, just to correction, my confusion is David Jimenez historically has been the one in our meetings that has been doing it. And what I'm seeing on my confusion is that we're deviating away from past practice. And that's where I'm getting confused with what the parliamentarian just said. Our past practice was David Jimenez, our VP of Treasurer, recording the votes.
Point of order. This is debate and we're in the middle of
Okay,
it.
hang on, Kevin. So Mary, let me just answer that real quick. We haven't had any regular board meetings since last March, a year ago, right?
Thank you.
So with that in mind, it makes it really hard for newer people on the board to understand what past practice actually is. Now, with that, and that's being respectful. With that said, I was handed another piece of information, which I'm going to share with the board before they vote. And that piece of information is that no one watching the live stream can see the votes online. So the live stream can't see the hands, not even the other officers. So with that said, if you want to, with full disclosure, if you want to uphold the ruling of the chair, please raise your hands. If you want to oppose the chair, we will get to that next. So anyone who wants to uphold the ruling of the chair, please raise your hand.
Point of order or point of information, Mr. Chair, I actually can't see the raised hands on the side of my Zoom screen. So I could count them as well.
So David, it's the people watching online. Anyone watching online cannot see the hands.
Oh,
I did. I did. And that's a good clarification and correction, right? But the online participants can't see the hands.
Or who's talking.
Right. Or who's talking by a highlighted box either, for that matter.
Can you please tell me what we're voting on?
We're voting on whether or not to uphold the ruling of the chair or to sustain the objection of the chair's ruling. And the ruling was that we would continue allowing, by my choice, who assists me in counting the votes.
Okay, so what is the question now for me to vote on?
Hands up or hands down?
Okay. So if you support the ruling of the chair, which is that we will continue with a simple show of hands vote, unless there is a request for a roll call vote prior to each vote.
Point of
you
order,
support
you
the-
already said, you already said it was going to be a roll call vote.
No, I didn't. I did not.
Check the minutes.
So if you're going to support the ruling of the chair, please raise your hands. If you oppose the ruling of the chair, we'll get to that in a moment.
Point of order, point of clarification, whatever point. It's, you did, Bill, state that it was going, Mary De La Cruz asked for this to be a roll call vote, and you did state it will be a roll call vote. I concur with whoever spoke earlier.
Okay, you know what? You're right. And my mistake. David, please take the roll call vote. Lower hands.
Okay. So this is the roll call vote to sustain the challenge to the parliamentarian will assist you in counting the votes instead of secretary treasurer, right? Is that what this is?
Those who wishing to vote to sustain the chair vote yes.
And to sustain
Those
the
who
chair
don't
means
say
that,
no.
right? But what does that mean? The yes means that you sustain the chair in his decision to allow the parliamentarian to count or assist him in counting the votes. If you vote no,
Correct.
then you don't support that. And what is the option? That I, as secretary treasurer, would be counting the votes, correct?
Or the rule.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's be clear here. It is to have the chair call for a hands vote. The challenge to the chair is that it's they want a roll call vote.
I think
No.
no, that's not.
it's-
Yes,
That's incorrect. The challenge to the chair, so the chair's ruling was that the chair could choose the assistance of someone to help count the vote. My choice of person has been Scott, the parliamentarian, as a neutral third party, who has historically assisted in that process. The challenge is, no, they think David should be counting the votes. And that doesn't mean that every vote is a roll call vote going forward. It just simply means that David would count and announce the vote unless a roll call vote was called. I hope that's clear enough for everybody, because quite frankly, I'm getting confused too, David. So, yes sustains the chair and Scott, at my choosing, will continue to count the votes. No, David counts the votes.
okay. So DLC 701, Lisa Davis, absent. DLC 702, Gertrude Nisi Davis.
DLC 702 votes yes.
703, Jason Sandoval.
Jason Sandoval, DLC 703, I vote yes.
DLC 704, Latasha Brown.
DLC 704, Latasha Brown, I vote no.
705, Nishay Roy.
DLC 705, Michelle Roy votes no.
706, Olivia Montano.
DLC 706, Olivia Montano votes yes.
707, Carol Leonardo Valdez.
DLC 707 votes no.
710, Naomi Musembi Johnson.
DLC 710, Young and Sammy Johnson, I vote yes.
721, Robert Gilbert, absent. 722, Maria Blaine.
Maria Blaine, DLC 722 votes yes.
723, Stephen Alari.
DLC 723, Stephen O'Leary votes yes.
724, Deleon Seacrest.
Votes yes.
725, Misty Del Rosario.
725, Misty Del Rosario abstains.
726, Charity Regalado, absent. 727 vacant, 729 Nancy Martinez excused, 741 Monica Rodriguez absent, 742 Cynthia Vo excused, 743 John Turok.
DLC 743, John Turok.
Can you repeat? You cut out.
DLC 743, John Turok vote.
Cut out again. Just say yes or no.
Point of information, I just saw a thumbs up from him.
On his screen? I'm not seeing that. John, can you
Yes.
just say yes or no, please?
Yes.
Thank you. We were getting everything, but when it came to your vote, it cut out. So Bill Hall, 744.
I think it's inappropriate for me to vote on this, so I abstain.
Okay, 746 Joycelyn Odom. 746 Joycelyn Odom. 747 Ramon Navarrete excused. 749 Jerome Washington.
I vote yes.
751 Christina Evitt. 751 Christina Evitt.
Christina Evitt, DLC 751 votes yes.
752 Kevin Healy.
752 Healy, yes.
761 Angelique Moreno.
761, no.
762 Donette Sparkman.
762, Danette Sparkman, yes.
764 Jennifer Cordova.
764, yes.
765 Leonard Seitz. Leonard Seitz, you're marked absent, but I thought I saw you. There you are.
Sandy.
Can you unmute yourself, Leonard? There you go. Can't hear you. You're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Yes? Is the thumbs up a yes? Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be able to because I have to go back to work. We'll see when I get home.
7-6. Noemi, can you mute yourself? We hear you.
Okay.
766 Sharonda Ward.
766 Sharonda Ward, yes.
767 Benjamin Arriaga.
767, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I vote yes to sustain the chair.
768 vacant. 769 Daryl Kirby.
Yes.
770 Nicole Solovoscoy.
770, no.
771 James Early is not able to vote. VP of the DLC. 772 Mary Dela Cruz.
772, Mary Dela Cruz votes no.
Hong Van Nguyen, DLC 781 is excused. 782 David Johnson, absent. 784 Colin Crow.
No.
785 Wanda Yanez.
785 votes yes.
786 Teresa Taylor.
786 votes yes.
787 Ruth Ibarra.
787 Ruth Ibarra abstains.
788 Heather Kessler.
788 Heather Kessler abstain.
789, Eileen Boughton.
No.
790, VP of the DLC, James Lane, not able to vote. 792, Jack Dean, absent. 793, David Smith.
793, yes.
794, Francina Stevenson.
794, Francina Stevenson, yes.
795, Ruth Kiker.
795, yes.
799, Delon Johnson.
No.
850, Carrie Riley. Oh, absent. Chairs, Vanessa Seastrong.
Vanessa Seastrong votes yes.
Robert Holtz, chair.
Robert Holtz votes no.
Eric Murray, chair.
I'm gonna have to say no.
Brad Willis, chair.
Brad Willis votes yes.
Melissa Vartanian, excused. Susan Rodriguez, chair.
Chair of Unit 1, Susan Rodriguez votes yes.
Bobby Roy, excused. Karen Jeffries, chair.
Chair of Bargaining Unit 4, Karen Jeffries votes yes.
And Robert Vega, absent. Andrew Vasic, chair.
Yes.
So statewide officers, VP organizing representation on the walls.
No.
VP of bargaining, Irene Green.
Yes.
VP secretary treasurer, I guess I will abstain as well. And Richard Brown, absent. So I'll count the votes. I have 28 yeses. Twelve noes. 5 abstains.
David, Joyce Odom has her hand raised and you didn't get her vote.
Joycelyn Odom, 743. How do you vote? You need to unmute, Joyce. Joycelyn.
I vote yes.
So I have 29 yeses, 12 noes, 5 abstentions.
Thank you, David. Scott agrees. The chair has been upheld. With that, it's 12:05. I think it's a great time for a break. 45 minutes for lunch, return at 12:50. Does that sound agreeable to everybody?
Can we just make it one?
Okay, David, yes. All right. Hearing no other requests.
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment before we leave?
Sure.
I just wanted to say something to all the board members. We have a lot of people, board members, who have worked hard to bring us back to normalcy, and to be very respectful of those who are present, to see the efforts that have been made. We've had so many months without doing nothing for the members. It has been sad. It has been a sad time. But when we see people who are here, that should tell you that these people want normalcy and they want to make sure that the members get what they need. So I'm just kindly asking that everybody who is present be respectful, and let us get the work done. The members want the work done, and it's important that if you truly are working for the members, please let us work together as a team to move our union forward. Please, kindly. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. With that said, please take a lunch break and return promptly at 1 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you.